Welcome back, everybody, to Sonic and the Parallel Worlds. This is the Games Done Quick hotfix, where we are having a look at speedruns of fan games and modifications of original Sonic the Hedgehog games. We have already had day one. If you haven't seen that, they will be uploaded up onto the Games Done Quick YouTube channel. You should check out Games Done Quick on all of our various socials. I believe you can put ! Socials in the chat if you want to figure out where we all are and what we're doing. But we have already had some Snolf action, a repeat of yesterday, but in Sonic 2 instead of CED. And now we are seeing some more Sonic 3. We saw some Sonic 3 in some form yesterday. And now we are seeing a slightly different version of Sonic 3. And you can see the guy who's joined me on my headphones. We are going to be seeing some Knuckles gameplay with... Well, there's no one better to show off Knuckles than our very own Clov. Hello, Clov. How are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Clov. I'm going to be running Sonic 3 DA Garden Edition, which is a very neat version of this game. And with me, I'm going to have two commentators. Hello, RPG.
Hello.
And one special commentator is none other than Thorn. Hello, Thorn.
Hello, hello.
So if you can introduce yourself.
Sure. The eponymous DA Garden Edition here. It was designed as a ROM hack back in 2015 by somebody who initials were DA, and they said, well, this is what I'm going to call my ROM hack. I believe he's right there in the chat as well. I have been the one who's taken the liberty of porting this into the Sonic 3 Air engine that you all saw run yesterday, so I get to sit here and watch Clov make me cry as he breaks it wide open.
Nice. Okay, so I think we're going to start really soon. As you can see, I'm gonna select this speedrun mode. This is a very special mode that Thorn is going to explain right after I start the run. But let's hit that. We're going to start from a new fresh file. We're going to collect all the emeralds, all 14 emeralds. And this time we're gonna do it with Knuckles, which is
let's go
the best character, objectively. Yeah. So yeah, Knuckles and Tails, because Tails is also best boy. And here we are. So Thorny, you want to do the countdown? Feel free to do it.
Sure, it would be my pleasure. Let's go in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Right, he's immediately going to turn around and go fast, get going. Now, I imagine you are playing with your own music mod here, Clov?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, this is not music that's actually in the game, mind you.
No.
Which is a pity.
Clov is playing the hard mode for the game. Unlike the original ROM hack, this is going to propose more than one egg robo pursuing Knuckles throughout the game, and also makes for much more difficult special stages, which we'll get to see Clov wind his way through.
What's really interesting about the egg robos being added into the different stages with the hard mode is you can actually use some of them for movement tech, which adds a really nice and interesting dynamic to the speedrun.
Yeah, especially with Knuckles, with the moveset that he has, utilizing additional properties within these slightly modded stages. Well, I say slightly, they're pretty overhauled, generally to make things harder. And then there's a hard mode of DA Garden, which, yeah, it's quite a speedrun.
Blue Sphere enjoyers may notice that was a custom Blue Sphere stage, which is honestly a fantastic change to this. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Thorn, but you designed the maps for all of the special stages for Knuckles hard mode?
For the hard mode, yes. Playing in any other mode, you're playing the layouts that DA Garden designed with minor modifications, as we've seen people pick it up over the last 8 years or so. We've seen what people react to, how people play, and so we've made modifications accordingly.
I won't spoil anything coming up, but some of those special stages do get a little bit devious, and I think maybe maybe the second or third one we'll start to notice some of the key differences. So, if like me, you're kind of okay at the Blue Sphere stages from the base game, it's because they're all in squares, and my tiny little peanut brain can only just comprehend them. But a lot of these special stages tend to have squares with some of the reds already filled in, and my brain can't do it. my brain absolutely can't do it. But because of the way that the blue spheres work, where if you completely encircle,
No, we were looking to see.
Got backups.
Okay. Indeed, Cloud. We always come prepared.
Yeah.
We've got backups.
Lots of backups. And what's really nice, actually, is that levels that traditionally did not have big rings in, like Knuckles Angel Island Act 2, the DA Garden layout does contain big rings. So we have plenty of opportunities to pick up extra emeralds.
Ah, that's good.
Right, so we'll notice there were no level results here. The speedrun mode that Clov is playing cuts level results. It cuts any cutscenes that don't radically move the player or change the environment that will need to play out to make sure everything's aligned. It's going to be non-stop gameplay from start to finish.
Yeah, it cuts around between, depending on the category and the character, between 5 and 10 minutes. And it just cuts out downtime. It's an absolutely perfect addition. And although it does cut the clear tally, it doesn't actually cut the points out. So if you're actually, farming rings or farming lives for points, you can play in the speedrun mode and you'll still get those points at the end of the level. It just cuts out the tally completely.
Clov is in the third special stage at the moment, a much more linear one, but one that also requires him to step up. He's getting funneled directly at these combinations that he can turn into rings, and he needs to quickly make the correct movements and continue on.
Exactly. And again,
he also needs to jump 2 red spheres there.
Yeah.
Which is something you only have to do in the blue spheres minigame in the original.
That little sequence of 2 squares together there where you just need to zigzag between them, that's a prime example of my brain can't do that. But it's conceptually really simple.
Either.
You've seen nothing yet, Ahibby.
Yeah.
I think it's Super Emerald 6 is my absolute favourite.
Oh no.
It's also my favorite as well. It's so
Certainly
good.
not for the faint of heart.
I love watching you do it. Okay. Stage 4, another one where it will have some just unusual configurations of spheres that Clov will turn much of into rings. He's obviously not aiming for the most optimal ring route, he's aiming for the most optimal speed route.
I think non-standard sort of configurations for them as well really help set them apart. This one here is a perfect example of it.
Ooh.
It's just a big rectangle, but at first glance you can't tell. Very smooth.
Nice.
Again, this one, another big rectangle. You only need to fill in those 3 and that's it, because the rest is done for you.
Ooh.
That's emerald number 3, currently.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was stage 4, Emerald 3.
Yep, perfect. So we're looking to end up as Super Knuckles by Hydro City 2, I'm thinking. Which is,
It's going to be Hydro 2 now, yes.
Which lines up roughly with where it would have been in the vanilla run as well. So cheeky little
And
boss
that's 2
trap.
for 2 for pronunciations from RPG. Well,
Exactly. I got to get it correct.
Nice boss.
Yep.
Stel's going to help us out here.
I think that might be the only time Tails does anything helpful in the run. I'm lying. He does do some otherwise as well.
So because we have skipped level results, there's no need to return to the save screen and skip the cutscene. We just go.
Yeah, it cuts out menuing, which admittedly there can and certainly is skill in menuing. But if I can have a speedrun that cuts it out, I'll do that instead.
It's interesting. Some runners would see that as a luxury to have, a bit of downtime.
Yeah,
but
indeed.
I imagine in something that's as intense as this, I don't know whether I'm asking at the wrong time whilst Clov is concentrating, but do you prefer going straight from one to the other or a little bit of downtime? He's definitely focusing right now.
Yep.
From experience, it does certainly make the run a little bit stressful sometimes, but not hugely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this game, there are opportunities, there are small cutscenes, there are areas like in Flying Battery where you're waiting for the floor to rise beneath you. There are times to grab a quick sip.
Yeah, exactly.
We do not like to dehydrate our runners.
Ooh, really nice jump up there to skip all of those
Indeed.
platforms. So
Right.
one thing that's, I believe, unique to the Air version of DA Garden as well is that Knuckles actually has a lot of alternative routes and paths, if I'm correct.
I did not add many of those. I did the introduction to Angel Island 1, the new start point where the cutscene is. Everything from there to the first giant ring is custom layout. But for the most part, they'll be playing through ever so slightly tweaked versions of the DA Garden Edition layouts from 2015.
Yeah, and DA Garden itself sort of gives Knuckles' campaign, as it were, a whole sort of extra dynamic to it, because rather than just run through Sonic's levels with a worse jump height and occasionally a breakable wall, sometimes you end up with completely different levels. Very nice bit of backward swag.
Yes. Yes, at every zone, with the except for Flying Battery, will have some place in one of the two acts where he's going on a Knuckles exclusive path. And often in both acts.
Yeah, it's really, really nice, the sheer amount of extra diversity there is between sort of the Sonic run and the Knuckles run.
Right, and this is a big shout out to DA Garden's original layouts for this. Okay, so as he finishes up this Chaos Emerald, he's going to be moving immediately into the next.
The path that you take there, yeah, the path that you take there between them, again, is just a really nice bit of slope-based momentum fun to sort of jump between them. This also one is quite a nice, follow a little trail, collect some rings. I've never tried to perfect any of these stages, and just sort of watching them go past like now, I genuinely, I'm like, I don't know how I could ever do that.
Yes, Clov is, while this special stage starts with a central hub with 4 paths branching out, Clov is not the traditional type to just follow a path.
Oh, the backwards movement.
Yeah, I love this one. This one's really good. It's scary.
Yeah, this particular version of this strategy is one that Clov came up with not very long ago, actually. But he's practiced it up and made it look good very quickly.
Very cheeky little bit of playing with fire with that red orb there.
Yeah, I should have jumped over that red sphere. Oh, well, that blue sphere, but yeah. Making that red sphere earlier than usual makes something difficult.
Yeah, I love that little stop-start. Just casually jumping over just groups of 2 red spheres in a row as well there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Clov, we all know that you're incredibly well-versed with classic games. How does, in terms of learning and reading for this game, how did this stack up to, you know, the other runs that you've done with Knuckles?
Well, since I was already very used to the Sonic 3 and Knuckles physics as well, because the difference between Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic 2, the physics are quite different. So, making this game the best one to have Knuckles, because this one has the best physics for Knuckles, it makes things a bit easier, but the layout is a really good change base.
Right. Runners of the game were provided with maps for the level layouts, but that still involves having to do all of the new routing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that's perhaps not going to be super apparent from the run, because obviously we're going to be taking one very direct path through most of the levels, that a lot of the levels in DA Garden Edition can be completed quicker than their vanilla counterparts. It's not that they've been made shorter, it's that they've got a massive amount of intertwining paths, so the sheer scope of different routes you can take is like massively increased. And it will be tricky to see sort of throughout the run where all those paths overlap, but I think sort of Flying Battery is a pretty good example of that. Something to look forward to.
Yes. Right. Every time I watch you just deliberately jump between those off-path red spheres to cut having to go around, my heart jumps a little.
Yeah, the things we do in the name of speed. But luckily, although we've had to redo this one, this is actually quite a short, simple, turned on a dime, nicely done. And that gives us Super Knuckles.
Yeah, we can finally go fast.
Yeah, now we get to enjoy invincibility and super speed privileges for the next few zones.
He's pretty in pink.
He sure is. So we're going to see Clov transform into Super Knuckles pretty soon. The main differences between Knuckles and Super Knuckles are he's invincible. I believe he can still drown, like Super Sonic can.
Yes.
He also climbs incredibly quickly, and also he has a slightly increased gliding speed as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I need to wait for this cycle, unfortunately, but it's alright.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah. Unlike with Super Sonic, though, Knuckles actually doesn't gain any increased jump height from turning Super, which seems like an odd choice initially, but if you think about it...
He really could have done with it.
It would allow him onto all of the not Knuckles paths.
Exactly.
It would make designing the game extremely difficult.
Yeah. So, Tails being a homie once again, getting Knuckles up nice and high so that we can kill that boss nice and fast. And with that, we're ready to move on into Marble Garden.
Yes.
So we have a super direct route through Marble Garden 1. We've got a little bit of treacherous platforming and tricky obstacles to avoid. Not to shill for it too hard, but I do think that the DA Garden layouts for Marble Garden in particular are leaps and bounds better than the original. I find Marble Garden an absolutely miserable zone, but it works quite well here with loads of different paths and little obstacles that we need to work our way through. So I've taken a bit of a detour there to grab a big ring so we can get Super, and use the ludicrous amount of speed and fast climbing to our advantage to get through as quick as we possibly can.
Indeed.
By the way, I didn't say that. Wow.
Oh, you forgot that we've got the wow.
You had one job, Clov.
I was waiting for RPG.
Yeah, sorry, I overwrote the wow.
Okay.
It's worth interrupting for.
Definitely.
Okay.
So he's going to what we call cheese the boss here. By using that pillar, he can get up above and simply bounce on its head. Oh, Tails tried to intercept him, but he recovered in time.
Tails doing his best, I'm helping.
Right, so if Tails is flying, whether Clov sets him off accidentally or not, he can make sure that when he is jumping, he doesn't land directly on Tails by holding down while he jumps. But if you don't expect the Tails coming, you might not notice that.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
We'll also be taking a short route right here where he is... This flight route was not in the original game and was added because this is an extremely long level, so...
Yeah, it's a nice little
just much like the original Marble Garden 2, it takes some time.
Oh, nice jump.
This movement is so nice to watch.
Yeah, this level is, I think, is a shining example of how smooth and fluid the DA Garden layouts can be when you know what you're going and you're using all your movement options really well.
Okay. Let's try to make that platform respawn. Okay.
Cheeky bit of super so we can climb up here. Gonna go on a spinner soon, and this is gonna throw us. Oh, gonna throw us up to a sort of a bit where we can choose to go between Sonic's path and Knuckles' path in the near future.
And Clov is going down what is, for DA Garden Edition, the Knuckles path.
Indeed. There's a really interesting sort of change coming up here as we get to the end of this level as well. We did have Tails, so we could have taken the Sonic path, but it's a little bit slower. Is it this particular section, Clov, working your way to the boss and the boss itself, that makes it more worthwhile to do the Knuckles boss, or does Carnival Night factor in as well?
I actually don't know, but what I know is this is actually faster, and this boss has no RNG. Even though
that's true.
Yeah, so that's true. This boss also, in this version, in the air version, does come down slightly lower so that you can hit him just as often as you could with Sonic.
Yeah, traditionally this is the Sonic boss, but the way that the DA Garden Marble Garden 2 works out is that Sonic and Knuckles do each other's bosses, which is a really interesting change.
Right. So he's starting Carnival Night with the lights off here. With the continuity from the Sonic path in the air version here, Sonic will not turn the lights back on after turning them off in Carnival Night, and with Knuckles' campaign coming afterwards, the lights will remain off when he starts.
Does look really nice though with the permanently dark palette. Much like in Vanilla, a nice super bounce. Much like in Vanilla's the Vanilla layout though, the actual length of Carnival Night Act 1 is very, very short, and just like that, already at the boss.
The Doctor.
Indeed.
He returns.
No comment.
So Clov's just going to set this up so he can manipulate the camera edges to bounce the projectile back into the boss and get those 4 hits as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Once it's crashed into the floor, we're moving into Carnival Night 2, which is going to have one very large key difference between the standard layout, or sort of the way the level plays out normally, and the DA Garden layout.
Yes.
Much like... Ooh, that was a nice jump off that.
Ooh.
Yeah, much like Carnival Night 2 in the vanilla layout, it is pretty short and direct for Knuckles because he can break walls and take his own very unique path.
Right, speaking of which, that unique path is largely optional. Clov is on it right now, but there was nothing stopping him from just going down the Sonic path, much like in the original Carnival Night. The difference is, in the Sonic 3 version, you're likely to be funneled onto the Knuckles path unless you're trying for the Sonic path. This is quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Clov had to seek out the Knuckles path for the fastest way through, and he's just taken a section where he's supposed to slowly glide back and forth and just solved it with a 6-tap spin dash.
And just like that, we are on the road to the end of the level, going through all the sort of like, I don't know, I'm going to call them vacuum tubes because that sounds about right. And in a twist of fate, Knuckles is going to have to actually fight a boss here this time. It has been modified, though, to come a little bit lower so that he can actually hit it normally. Because...
Not that with Tails that matters.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever fought the vanilla air boss of that with Knuckles alone. Not fun. Not fun at all.
Coming from the top route, he'll get a cannon entrance into the level.
Yeah, so the obviously Ice Cap skips the snowballing sequence. The layout here is really interesting because it's a little bit more maze-like, perhaps, than the original one, or perhaps that's just because I'm so used to the slides and where to jump that having to jump in different places is really confusing. But it makes for a really interesting level where it sort of fits that it's a little bit later in the Sonic 3 half and there's a bit more technicality to it.
Yes, there are many more split. There's usually 2 routing options where the original just has 1, and when there are 2, it's just character split.
Yeah.
And many of some of the exits to the slides also have 2 different exits, so even there is a route switch. Now, at this point, Clov is going to see if he can line up Tails to not have despawn. So yes, so he just gets dragged into Act 2 by the camera.
Also notice how
to...
Tails arrived earlier, despite me being way faster.
Indeed. Yeah, Clov quickly moved before the Tails had to respawn, and while Tails was still considered active, he gets forced inside the camera bound set by the mini-boss.
Moving on through Act 2. Act 2 for Knuckles is quite a bit more technical, perhaps, than it is for Act 1. There are a lot of obstacles that we're going to have to pay attention to as we work our way down through the bottom of the level. The routes will eventually converge, and we're going to get to see a really, really interesting and unique little bit of Knuckles gameplay near the end. Now, there's a little death hit there, so we've got to be aware of that. Using the crusher to get nice and high. Nicely done.
So we're going to be seeing Clov pull off he's going to be rapidly detaching and reattaching to the wall, which will be faster than standard climbing, and he is risking it with spikes at his back because he's just that brave.
Yeah, quick climbing is a strategy that we haven't seen in the run up to this point, because if you're climbing and you're super, it's just faster than doing quick climbing. But it is a staple skill of pretty much any standard any percent Knuckles run.
Going to pick up those snow piles at the boss so he doesn't get snagged.
Use Tails to get airball again. What's super interesting about a lot of these boss strategies as well is that they'll work whether you're super or not. So a lot of the boss fights become relatively straightforward as long as you've got Tails. Any character alone that isn't Tails, though, has a little bit more difficulty with it. But now we're going to move on into launch base. I really, really like the blue launch base. We haven't touched on yet, I don't think, actually, that... I mean, I imagine people may have noticed by now, but we have custom palettes for each level as well.
Yes, and those palettes, with one exception, those palettes were not in the original ROM hack from 2015. Those were custom added for this in an attempt to try to smooth out the time of day transitions from level to level. But those are completely configurable. If those can be turned off right in the options menu, and Clov could have messed with all of our muscle memory by putting on the original look for every level.
So we're going to do a little bit of Super Knuckles, climbing up the side of the tower, because obviously this was broken well before, and we're going to drop
everyone's favorite boss
straight into the boss. Yeah, at least being Super, he takes a lot of the edge off it. Oh, Tails helping out. Luckily, we're not going to need to do any sort of weird manipulations here for a potential peacock. We're just going to descend straight into Launch Base Act 2.
Yep. And as I'm saying in chat, as a reminder for those coming in late, no, this music is not part of the actual mod. This is Clov's choice.
What a fine choice.
As much as I do love Daytona music.
I'm enjoying the music historians that we've got in chat, keeping an eye out and finding all of the references.
Yes.
That is one thing that is super neat about the about Sonic 3 Air. People have managed to find ways to put their own tracks in, their own sound effects, whether that's to the detriment of the viewer. That is your choice. But we've even got a mod with sound effects recorded specially by a particular person, and that's cool.
Yes, hello.
Yes, RPG.
Hello.
I remember watching
here right now.
I remember watching Clov's run on Speedruns Espinal, and everybody in the chat going, "What is that?"
That was quite a treat.
All right, Clov coming up on the final bosses of Sonic 3, and we may see Clov, depending on how circumstances play out, take advantage of some era-specific options that I did not expect as a dev would have an effect on the run, but they do. So let's see what happens as Big Arms comes into play here.
Yeah.
Is this the new strat that you found?
Yep.
Ooh.
Okay, we're gonna let ourselves get caught. Tails, unfortunately, didn't get the second hit. It's very hard to do it, but by getting caught on the first time, we are allowing the boss to move on second phase. We can also let Tails hit the boss a few times and change the option because that allows us to do this. Hit the boss from below.
Right. So the way Sonic 3 Air has programmed the switch between traditional locked roll jumps and free movement roll jumps seems to expand the hitbox for just the briefest moments. So the engine has introduced a speedrun strat into my mod. I say my mod, DA Garden's modded.
Super Emerald time!
So,
you may have noticed.
Go ahead, RPG, take it.
You may have noticed. We've got an additional colour of orb here. We've now got green spheres. These take 2 hits to collect. This significantly increases the complexity of some of the shapes we're going to have to deal with, and I cannot wait for Super Emerald 6. But you'll also notice we didn't have to transition into the Hidden Palace cutscene, so we don't have to sort of, watch all the emeralds come down. This does mean we have to do the Super Emeralds in a linear order, but I think generally speaking, most runners that do these categories, they have their own set order they do them in anyway, so it doesn't really make too much difference. But it means that we can rapid fire through these special stages for these emeralds without having to worry about cutscenes, which again cuts down quite a bit of extra time.
That is so incredibly mean that you can't circle green spheres. You have to turn them blue.
The rule remains: red around blue will cause them to turn into rings.
That's I hate it.
So 2 things I'd like to give credit where it's due. Fred Bronze, who ran the Sonic 3 Unlocked blog, created his own assembly language interpretation of green spheres, and that was ported to Sonic 3 Air's Lemon script language to place these into DA Garden Edition and to make the green sphere minigame you can get from the main menu. And we also Clov did an extended backwards section. He would very much like me to inform you all that is not showing off, it is legitimately faster. But also showing off.
So we're going to see Clov jumping into a lot of special stages in Mushroom Hill because the zone is absolutely packed with big rings, with the aim being that we want to get access to Hyper Knuckles as fast as possible. So we're going to have to look at some absolutely cursed green spheres and cursed green sphere shapes for a little bit longer. But we're building up towards the ones that are starting to get a little bit more difficult now as well, where we need to like sort of snake our way through the middle of a square in order to get them all blue, just so that we can put them all by going around the edge. Devious, the way I've described some of these.
But if anyone in here can handle blue sphere special stages, it is Clov.
Absolutely. A little bit of backward swagger. Viewers might have picked up on as well, the music we've got now for these special stages is different to the ones that we had with the Chaos Emeralds. Which is something that is not true or native of base S3K either. So we've got the option to have a different music track based on sort of which tier of special stage we're working our way through.
Right. Yeah, if the stage has green spheres, the DA Garden Edition mod will use a separate music track, which Clov has also modded.
What's super interesting about us doing all this big ring collection in Mushroom Hill is I think this is actually sort of showing what I alluded to earlier with the sheer scale and amount of different routes that are in the DA Garden layouts. I think Mushroom Hill is probably one of the better examples of that, where there are maybe 4, sometimes even 5 paths, sort of all stacked on top of each other that you can neatly swap in and out of.
Yes, and right now Clov is in perhaps not the hardest of these Super Emerald stages, but certainly the longest. They'll be moving rather fast by the end. It's a rather open stage with a symmetrical layout with different sides that swap which spheres are blue and which spheres are green. So it gives him lots of opportunity for a new player to look around, for him to observe the patterns before you jump into them, but also means you're moving incredibly quickly and very mistake-prone by the end. Clov is using strategies right now where he's weaving in and out, choosing to do these jumps over 2 sets of red spheres at once in order to minimize time taken because it's a GDQ run.
And it's definitely a flex and it's definitely fast, which means it's an important part of the run. Again, some more just casual, just jumping over double stacks of red spheres like it's nothing. Going to become a recurring theme. So the speed ups in these special stages, the way that it works.
Saw that.
My heart.
The speed ups are every 30 seconds. So this being such a long stage means we end up having to go through 2, 3 special speed ups. Nicely done.
And originally Clov had a slightly longer route that I believe just reached into the next speed up as well. So he's optimized that as of late.
So we're immediately going to hop back down. We're going to start route hopping again to find our next big ring. Really nice little yeet there. Lots of green spheres to work our way through this time. This is number 4.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, the stage being themed with a lava reef color palette. Each of them have been reflecting the stages in order from each game, with the exception of Special Stage 7 in Sonic 3, which only had 6 stages.
I was today years old when I realized you'd done that.
It's something that the original Sonic 3 done as well. The original Sonic & Knuckles makes them themed after the Emerald colors. So we see that Clov is going in here. He's gone down a winding path, has turned around, and is now having to jump over sets of red spheres backwards that he left. Keep that in mind. That'll happen again at some point.
With those 2 sections done, though, that's like the blue sphere count into double absolutely plummeted from going through those 2 sections. There's not too much left to go now in this one. There's 2 more spheres to get rid of.
He said it.
Nice.
It is always a treat to watch Clov do these. They are, for so many people, anxiety-inducing, even though they're 100% predictable. So watching Clov just come in and treat them like they're nothing is always a treat.
Yeah, it's always lovely to see them done just masterfully. So with
hopefully they will be on time. No.
Oh,
It's not here. Okay.
Never rely on Tails.
unfortunately, Knuckles can't reach. Tails can though, which means he can get a couple of extra cheeky hits in. Speeds the boss up a tiny amount. So there's a really, really nice little visual quirk that we're going to get introduced to very quickly in Mushroom Hill 2. It's going to change the temperature and the season as we go through. The palette's going to change.
Right. So the traditional interpretation people make with Mushroom Hill, I've seen people say it is in the original game. Oh well, I mean the level is dying as you get closer to the boss. But the more common interpretation I see people take is that we're moving through seasons, and this mod has started out in spring and has already moved to summer. So this stage is somewhat of a mix of concepts from the original special stages. He's going to have these broad hallways with all of these 4x4 sets of spheres that are arranged differently. And being 4x4, he either has to duck out of the corners and work his way around the red spheres, or risk jumping over two, turning, jumping over another two.
Yeah, it's quite similar to Special Stage 6 from the Sonic 3 layouts, where it's just hallways and corridors. But I think that's fine. Sometimes it's nice to have ones that are a bit more familiar.
And he's done.
Makes for a nice breeze special stage, and my absolute favourite one is up next.
And I think everyone's favorite one is up next. Clov, I know it's especially your favorite. Would you like to introduce it, or would you like us to take it?
Yeah, I can introduce it as soon as we enter the level, which is right here behind this robot. Okay,
yeah,
so
gotta let you have your favorite.
This special stage is quite unique in the design that we only have one path, literally one path. And as you can see, we have green spheres that we are leaving behind, so we are leaving blue spheres behind. Some of you can already tell what I need to do after this. Since there is one path at the end of this one, I will have to come back and keep jumping over red spheres to get the remaining blue spheres. And that's pretty much the gist of that.
Yes, if he were to turn around right now, since there's only one path, he would trap himself. He has to complete the entire stage forward, then complete the stage, not literally backwards, but traversing it the other direction.
At a much higher speed.
Indeed. With all of these red sphere jumps of up to 2 spheres at once. So you get to see the entire layout. You make it as you go. Then you need to traverse it.
So we're going around the loop back bit now. And now it begins.
Oh, the speed.
When designing this one, Thorn, I'm going to assume you have to be sort of quite careful that this one is very linear and therefore runs on a pretty strict timer. Did you have to make any changes at some point because the speed up would kick in at a really unfortunate moment and just deliberately ruin the player's day?
I admit I got a little bit lucky there. Now, admittedly, because there are those open chambers of rings, you do have the opportunity to modify when you approach different things. So I couldn't line it up exactly, but I did follow some typical player paths, and thankfully the speed ups lined up at good times. Hence, Clov is coming into our final special stage of the run now.
Okay, I know there's still a few backups here. I'm gonna try to do one jump specifically. It's very, very risky, but it will be very neat if I get it.
I've already seen you do 2 consecutive 2 red sphere jumps, though.
It bodes well.
Okay. Here we go.
And as a reminder for chat here, these are the hard mode stages. There are easier ones in the game.
Ooh.
Nicely done.
Wow.
Oh, I left that one. I'm gonna leave that for the last.
Yeah, that's gonna become your last one now.
I think that's quite a nice thing though about the way these blue sphere stages work, is that if you do make a mistake as you go around it, it's not always instant failure. You do have the opportunity that you can come back and make minor corrections. So that green sphere would have been the last one normally, but Clov's going to do a quick bit of backtracking.
Yeah, you can still reach that. You got this. Nicely done.
Well done.
Nice.
And that's going to give us access to Hyper Knuckles.
Right. No more of these 3D stages, just normal gameplay from here to the end.
Yeah, and also, Mushroom Hill has become autumn and rainy.
But my favorite comes right now.
The sprite of all time.
Everyone loves a little bit of winter.
Indeed.
So, the difference between Hyper Knuckles and Super Knuckles is that I believe he now can no longer drown. He runs a little bit faster, and also when you glide into a wall, it shakes the screen and kills all the badniks that are present as well.
Yep, exactly.
And of course, you receive the ability to not drown after you've passed every level in the game that has water in it.
It's a little Easter egg for New Game Plus.
That's a way to look at it.
Yeah. So Flying Battery is a zone that is every bit as devious as it is in Sonic 3. The layouts are full of traps, full of spikes, full of crushers. Mercifully, the layout, sort of the way it lends to itself, ends up being a little bit shorter than its sort of vanilla counterpart, which does help a little bit and takes the edge off. But like some of the ways that the traps are used there, you can see that the magnetized pillars are in different tiers and make steps. It's really, really interesting the way that sort of the level objects are used to help differentiate it.
That's a big thing that people pointed out when DA Garden made his original ROM hack as well, was that the level gimmicks were used in new and interesting ways. Like, their functionality hadn't changed, but how they interact with each other in the level layouts has. All right, I know you need hard focus on this boss, Clov.
Yeah, Mr. Tickles is a challenging boss.
Yeah, I can drink some water at least.
Good time for hydration. Certainly. Make sure you hydrate Colin as well, RPG.
Oh, absolutely. I'll have a quick drink.
Also, wow. Got the bottle seal.
Be getting some wows in chat. You love to see this.
Right, Act 2, an extremely fast act. What with having the additional mini-boss in here, making it an already long level, the DA Garden layouts have a very direct route to the ends to mitigate some of that extra time that's usually spent in a standard Sonic & Knuckles run.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're wowless.
One thing as well with, I think this is true of vanilla Flying Battery as well, but at least in DA Garden, both acts are very, very cycle heavy. In that your time is really lost in this in chunks of like 4 and 6 seconds. That was a nice jump. So we're going to have to wait for Tails here, or we can just use the platform. Yeah, so we end up having to wait for those.
Falls under that crushing platform, then continues onward. Now, he's going to be attempting to attack this laser. An upcoming version of Angel Island Revisited, you can see the commit on their GitHub. Includes a feature from, I believe, Hazel Spooter to give credit, and I've imported that commit into DA Garden in advance to allow this boss to be defeated with 8 hits.
Which takes it from being an auto-scroller to something that you can focus on for 10-15 seconds and speed it up a little bit. It's a really nice quality of life tweak. So with that, we're going to make our way up the crushing wall section. Going to wait for Tails a second so he can lift us up.
Right, and with Angel Island Revisited, once you pass under that opening in the ceiling there where he used Tails, the floor that is chasing him from below speeds up. So he doesn't have to wait too long for this boss to appear. And Tails just vanishes because Sonic & Knuckles is secretly warping you to a new location the instant the boss triggers.
Today I learned.
Yes, it actually teleports you straight down under the level you just traversed and holds the boss there.
Ah. So I just assumed that he just disappeared because magic, basically. Pretty much arcane coding.
We can go with that.
Yeah. Oh, nice dodge.
Indeed. I love watching that tech.
So Sando is another zone that is very dear to a lot of our hearts, Act 1 in particular. There are lots of traps. There are lots of routes we can take here by dropping down through the sand, which means that we're going to be going, up and down in quite a few different places as we go through this act.
Yes. In fact, both the Sonic Tails route and the Knuckles route involve dropping through sand early to reach the fastest way through the level, which means your casual player will never find it because they have an innate fear of that sand.
Understandably. Ooh.
Okay,
Ooh,
good
nice.
recovery on how to get to that high route. Awesome stuff.
So this puts us pretty much on a direct route to the boss. We're going to go around a loop and then around a ceiling divot, and then we're going to climb up this, and we're going to hop across. We can be invincible, ready for Dwayne. He is a very challenging boss.
Yep. So this is going to function very similar to the original. As many of you saw during yesterday's runs, Angel Island Revisited adds the ability to make the boss skid much further when you hit it, shortening the time you spend with this boss, because the alternative strat is just wait for him to start trying to come at you until he lands in the sand pit on the other side. So it's much less of a waiting boss now.
Yeah, a lot of the sections that were just flat out waiting simulators in Air have been substantially tweaked to be a little bit more palatable, or for you to be able to speed them up.
Yes. I'm seeing some chatter about the Egg Robo enemies in chat. Yes, that is because Clov is playing the hard mode in the DA Garden Edition mod, where instead of one Egg Robo pursuing Knuckles throughout the game, many Egg Robos are pursuing Knuckles throughout the game, and he played harder special stages.
Yeah, but
Which Hyper Knuckles now?
But again, it does give us a nice opportunity that we can use some of them to our advantage. There's one in particular I can think of off the top of my head coming up in Lava Reef that's really swag.
Oh, this button here.
Alright, so we're going to have the usual Rising Sand section, but as we are playing with Knuckles and we have Tails as a backup, we're not going to set off the Rising Sand, we're just going to climb up.
Yeah, and we're going to use a lot of super bounces here to speed this up a little bit.
In particular, you have a Super Glide coming right now.
Oh, I didn't get it. Fortunately.
Oh, that one's really hard.
Yeah.
Platform lined up nicely though for the backup to get you up and walking. I know a lot of people don't really like Sando Act 2, and I very much understand why. But I would wager that you've probably not played it in Air, or only ever played it as Sonic. As any other character that can skip the Rising Sand section, it's a really good level. The standard Air layout included.
Right, Clov again taking a route down through the sands to one that is ever so slightly faster.
Some of those sand pits do kill you. It's visually distinct in that they start to sort of darken and grey off at the bottom. But I think that's something that potentially not many people know. It's something that I certainly didn't know until I found out by accident.
Well, it is new to Air. Air adds just a PNG picture that's a brown overlay on pits that will kill you.
Oh.
So if you don't see that, it's safe to drop down and search for extra content. All right, and we're essentially, with no boss at the end of Lava Reef 2, we're essentially in the last zone of the run at this point.
Yeah, and this is a really good final level, or final zone really, but it is very, very tricky to traverse. The layout is full of spikes, full of fire, as you might expect. Keeping hold of this fire shield is super important. Squeezing through that gap there is probably the trickiest bit, because we're going to have to drop through a bunch of lava pits. There are several places coming up now where we're going to have to go through lava waterfalls, and if we didn't have the fire shield, we'd have to damage boost, or just hope that we're lucky and they're all not in the way.
Oh, it's okay. He's made his way past most of them.
Yeah, he's through the really, really tricky part. It's nice for this climb here, but it's not necessarily essential depending on how the things have lined up. So
it's depending on the cycles.
Yeah, we're pretty much out of the
I don't believe that fire shield was in the original realm hack. I believe I remember adding that one, or at least moving it to a more convenient position.
Yeah, Knuckles.
He's going to sneak in behind this Egg Robo, and many of the Egg Robos with their backs to the wall will be hiding secrets.
And then use him for a little super bounce and a glide to ascend up there a little bit quicker. And just like that, we're pretty close to the end of Lava Reef 1. Obviously, we've turned hyper now as well, so the loss of the fire shield doesn't really matter too much. And it's going to help us speed up the boss quite a bit too. So first we need to deal with Woobly Arms.
Oh, doing well so far. Oh, not quite getting the ball on one.
Yeah, it's one more hit on the left one. It's like that.
So because we don't need to jump, we can just stand completely still, which lets us get 4 hits on the hand per phase. And just like that, we move on into Lava Reef 2.
Lava Reef 2, another level that we did major routing changes on, like very close to this marathon.
Another level that's a little bit cycle-based. Another level that, like Act 1, very devious, full of spikes, quite a lot of flamethrowers and that sort of malarkey. But luckily, we're going to turn hyper straight away, so we don't have to worry about basically any obstacle here. This means we can take a very, very direct route, not worry about any of the obstacles, and just focus on going right as fast as possible.
Yes. Clov will go down one of the scoop ramps here. That is unique to the air version. This is a new route, but it's going to very quickly send him back up through the floor and onto the routes from the old ROM hack.
I'm going to go left through this huge pipe that's going to skip an absolutely enormous chunk of the level and throw us out onto the staircase that leads up to the very end.
Yeah, and he will follow the hints of the egg robos below the level to realize there's another route down there, which will give him a shorter version of Hidden Palace Zone. If he had taken a higher exit to Lava Reef 2, he would have been in a slightly longer one.
Oh, juice time, let's go!
Juice time, let's go!
Hey.
Well done.
Get your beverage boxes in chat, everybody.
Alright, and the final boss won't have changed much, if at all, other than having a sort of very pretty sunrise in the background.
Yeah, the only real difference between this boss is compared to basic S3K, I say basic original S3K, where some of his attacks are absolutely non-threatening due to it being in widescreen.
Yes.
The rest of his mechanics and his attack patterns are unchanged otherwise.
So he is certainly just hoping for good RNG here. He wants the boss to fire these charge shots, so that when it runs out of energy, he can get multiple hits in.
No sweeps, please.
5 hits, nicely done.
For those quickly asking in chat, Clov has just gone through a full new game of level layouts and new special stages.
Ooh,
And
nicely done.
Going up on time.
Time.
GG.
Nicely done.
Very nicely done and well under estimate. GG's, Clov.
Thank you.
Incredible run.
There he is, our beloved Knuckles. What a guy. Well, Clov, thank you so much for that run. And Dawn, it's been great hearing a bit of insight from you about what you sort of, did a little bit of sprinkling into this game. If folks are interested in finding out a little more about this, I know we can see the info about what version of game and air you're running, but if folks wanted to find that, can they just sort of put that into a Google search and see if they can find it?
Sure. The Sonic 3 Air section of Game Banana has a link to it. That, or if you're in the Sonic 3 Air speedrunning server on Discord, it does have a dedicated channel with a link to the GitHub for the project as well.
Awesome stuff. And Clov, I know that you did a little post about a little boss strat that you did, that we saw the makings of, but if there are any more resources that folks can look into if they're interested in trying this out? Any ILs they could watch or full game runs of yours?
Yeah, you can pretty much ILs. I did a whole set of ILs for time attacks for this version for all characters. And you can find them on my YouTube channel, which is ClovCG. And I don't usually stream very regularly, but if you want to follow me on Twitch, I am on twitch.tv/Clov_CGSR. I do have plans for the classic trilogy and for this game to go play further this one. So if you want to join me, feel free to follow me and check it out. Usually stream the evening European time around that. For final shoutouts, thank you for Sonic 3 Speedrunning Community, especially RPG, Nacho, Thorn as well, and of course, shoutouts to DA Garden, the person who did the original version back in 2015. Not much else to say. So if you throw an RPG, you wanna say something else?
Go ahead.
Not much I can think of. Just thank you very much for the run for the Showcase Club. You made it look incredible, and I'm glad everybody got to see your skill, in the Sonic Rear Knuckles engine here. That was a treat.
Yeah.
And SDA Gardens out there in chat, thank you very much for creating the project that we can actually base all of this on, and thank you for trusting me to bring it to a lot more people and for Club to showcase it the way he did.
Woo! And then RPG, I'm gonna butt in because you can give a trailer because you are on next. What are we to expect? You can do my job for me. Give us a teaser of what your run is gonna entail next.
Well, coming up after the break, I'm going to be playing some Sonic Robo Blast 2 again. This time though, we won't be playing Angel Island Tour and we won't be playing Mimi, but we will be playing sort of an alternate reimagining of a game that we've already seen at this marathon once already.
Ah, yes.
Exciting times ahead. Well, folks, do join us after a quick little break. Just a reminder that if you want to break from the ads, you can support the hotfixes happening through your subs, Prime Gaming subs, and gift subs and bits. Because when you cheer and when you help out the channel, you help out these hotfixes. And I don't know about you, and I don't know about the rest of the folks in this call, but I quite enjoy this sort of thing. So please do, if you can help out, that would be amazing. But if not, enjoy the tunes and we will be back very soon.